Do you know what? It's the theme of NIA. Jack Butcher's favorite. Attention. Attention wins. Shams has 2 million followers because he gets the first scoop, the fastest scoop, or him and Woj do. Woj is, I think, the highest paid journalist at ESPN. This is, to me, this is edge of the internet in the sense of like, it's another feather in the cap of when you wield attention, no matter what industry it's in, because attention is the last scarce resource. You get the power, you get the money.
Welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. We've got Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi here today. Unfortunately, Jack can't make it this week, but he should be back next week. Trung, what's going on, mate? We got a lot to talk about. How you doing?
I got a cold intro for the listeners here. I know you listeners, what are you driving? You going for a walk? Are you cooking breakfast for your kid? What are you doing right now? You making an omelet? Making a Southwestern omelet? Are you chopping onions? Peppers?
Frittata.
Yeah, what are you doing? A frittata?
Yeah.
Well, you have a laugh. So your boy Trung went for a run right before it's like a 5K. I got sweat here, you can see. So I didn't want to embarrass myself the whole episode. I put on a vest.
To get you even warmer.
For our boy Jim O'Shaughnessy. What's hilarious is that this is how much I care about the NA listeners. I don't even have time to change shirts. I'm wearing a vest, which is making that sweat spot even bigger underneath the vest.
We're just going to see you dripping in a minute, man.
What we should do is at the end of this episode, just pull it down and see if the whole thing's just like sweat infested.
I'm the same. I did my morning walk, just went out in the park, and I was like, I'm going to be sweating on the pod anyway. So you just got to put the hoodie on, go straight to gym after. You know, sweat even more, keep it going all day.
You know what's so funny about the sweat game? I love how we open this one. People here for the business and tech talk about the sweat game. You know how hard it is to guesstimate weather when it's gray? When it's gray outside, I always mess up the layers I have to put on, right? Like I'm
this time of year is confusing.
Gray. I'm putting on a jacket. 10 minutes later, I'm walking. I'm like, God damn,
hard.
It's hot, bro.
What is sauna season. All right,
wait,
talking of it, let's let people know what we're talking about, man. So we got FIFA. I mean, my favorite sports game. I mean, my favorite game of all time. So we're going to talk about. I mean, to be fair, I don't play that many games, but FIFA was obviously the best.
No
game.
Longer called FIFA. Don't bury the lead.
EA FIFA.
EA dropped the licensing with FIFA. We're going to talk about that. My friend Nate listens to this podcast. He used to work for EA. EA is based in Vancouver, by the way, for people who don't know.
Realize.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that.
All right, so we're going to break that down. The greatest sports gaming franchise of all time.
20 bill.
20
That's how much
bill.
money it's made EA.
And talking of 20 bill, triple that. Because we got add a bit more.
You got 69 bill.
69 million. Microsoft finalized a $69 billion acquisition of Activision. Massive, sending shockwaves in the gaming industry. We're going to break that down as well. And keeping that theme going with gaming and sports, we're going to talk about the Pakistani guy himself, Shams. How do we say his surname?
Charania.
Okay, he's the scoop guy of the NBA, you said, yeah?
Yeah, so for the listeners that don't know, there's two guys in the NBA, which are kind of almost bigger than the NBA because most of the NBA is consumed through social media. So his name is Adrian Wojnarowski. He's the other guy. He's Shams' mentor. So Woj versus Shams is like what is known about our boy Rafa knows about Woj versus Sham. Like he's going to listen to this episode and he's like, while he's editing, he's like, oh yeah. Oh, I love this.
There we go.
The reason I brought it up is because I wanted to ask you, Bilal. Bilal will mention there's like a soccer version of this guy.
Fabrizio, a.k.a. Here we go.
Doesn't he have 28 million followers? He's got a massive
something crazy
following,
like
right?
that. Yeah.
Okay.
He's the guy that when you're looking for the official go-ahead, he says, here we go. And that's when you can start getting excited about player transfers. So we'll break that down. We'll do a quick little segment if we get time on Taylor Swift's $100 million opening weekend at the movie theater, how she's gone direct to people and how she's earning a lot more money by doing that. Very impressive. And then we'll round it off with the bread off, crowning the greatest bread in the world. There's a meme of the week that we'll save for later. But essentially, we'll be having a little debate here around what is the best bread of all time, essentially.
Based on my conversation, I don't think it's going to be a debate. There's going to be a broad agreement.
I think we know. Let's not bury the lead there. I think we're
going to be a lot of agreement on this.
But all right, so let's talk about FIFA first, man. So you've been writing about this. And for a little inside baseball, the human ChatGPT, aka Trung Phan, or the human barely.ai, sends me a doc. He's like, for today's episode, I've got a write-up for you. He sends me two nice summarized pages on all these topics that
Here's
you want to
30
talk
bullet
about.
points to make you look good. Make
Exactly,
you sound
yeah.
good.
Yeah. But I'm going to let you introduce it. But let's talk about FIFA because, again, growing up, this is in the UK, this is like the game, right? Like some of my best friends have been made over playing FIFA. And actually before that, it was Pro Evolution Soccer, which was from Konami. And I think in like the 2000s somewhere, it changed from being Pro Evolution was the dominant game in the football world to FIFA. And then now they've changed to EA FIFA. So let's break that down, man. What's going on here?
Yeah, so Bloomberg Business Week, my publication I used to publish with, former Bloomberg writer Trung Phan.
Lowercase J journalist, yeah.
They had a great piece about, we mentioned at the top, EA and FIFA have this relationship, right? So FIFA is obviously this like scandal-ridden organization that organizes the World Cup, does the shadiest shit in the world. Anybody that saw the Netflix doc,
allegedly.
But could you? Well, actually, can we bullet point like what FIFA's been up to? They basically sell the rights to host the World Cup in recent years to like. Qatar had the most recent one. We had a whole episode with Joe Pompliano about potential sports washing. The idea that these petro states, or I guess with Russia in the recent Sochi Olympics, you use these large sporting events to like make your image look better, right? You launder your image. Same way Saudi is investing in PGA, or tried to. Basically, they launched Live Golf and basically tried to take over PGA, but that's being contested right now. So can you actually just so is FIFA, Bilal will know this more than me, or is it fair to say they are scandal-ridden and kind of a crooked organization?
Yeah, I guess I think you summarized it already there, but I think the perception has been that for a while, and it seems like a very old school organization where so many decisions are being made by relationships. And so there's a lot of, well, there have been confirmed cases of bribery.
The
DOJ
DOJ
did
like literally raid the Swiss offices of FIFA.
Exactly. So
this is not conjecture.
There's definitely something there, in my opinion anyway, and I think there's been some confirmed cases. But yeah, so that is definitely the case. But I don't actually know too much about the game and how it's been related. I'm assuming EA just bought the rights for that for many years, right? Yeah.
So the point is that it's the FIFA though is, I mean, there's UEFA, there's Premier League, but FIFA, would you say over the past 50 years or so, that brand is the most platinum brand for football?
Definitely,
right?
And because even UEFA is like the European version, and then I think just because people think of the World Cup, and honestly, I think one of the biggest things is the game. Because when you say the name FIFA, the first thing I think of is the game. I don't actually think of the organization. I think of
they came up together, right?
Yeah. So but to me, that superseded it almost.
Oh, interesting.
For me, maybe that's not for people. I'm just speaking for myself.
But that was the thrust of the Bloomberg article, though. Is like, if EA no longer has this licensing agreement with FIFA, they still have licensing agreements with Premier League, UEFA, all the major players. So the players are still in the game. The championships leagues are in the game. You just can't do World Cup mode, basically, right?
Yeah.
And but that's interesting how you said it. You said FIFA the game had even become bigger than FIFA World Cup, which I think that makes sense.
I mean the name specifically, because if someone was just talking to me and said the name FIFA, the first thing that pops in my head is the game, and that might be because I was addicted to the game.
No, but also not just you. They've sold 350 million copies. It's the best-selling sports franchise in gaming history. We've talked ad nauseum on this podcast about how big the gaming industry is. Electronic Arts did $6 billion in revenue last year. It's a $35 billion company now. We'll talk. Actually, I think it's the largest publicly listed gaming company after Activision got acquired by Microsoft. But having said that, the reason FIFA came about was that, you remember Madden football, which is also a huge, obviously, video game.
Yeah, American football for our European listeners.
Yeah, exactly. It was launched in the early 90s, quite successful. They made a game for Sega Genesis. And basically, FIFA, EA, Electronic Arts, the game developers, like, I wonder if we could do Madden, but for a more global game. And then what's more global?
Yeah.
That's football, European football, or soccer. So that's how FIFA, the game, was created. And it's incredible. Dude, have you played the 1993 version of...
I haven't played 93, but I was... The 90s? One of my favorite games of all time is Road to World Cup 98.
Okay.
That was legend, because you could beat Pakistan and go and win the World Cup. You know, it was like and that was like, there wasn't... I don't think they ever did it in the same way again. It was like, that was such a iconic game. And then 99 for me personally was when FIFA peaked, like the early versions before it became really like the gameplay obviously got really good eventually. But I'm saying like the arcade style of like you're gonna sprint and shoot. That was like the epitome of it. And then for me personally, Pro Evolution kind of took over. Like the more serious football fans and the people that played the games a lot, like me and my friends, everyone switched to Pro Evolution.
Because of the tactics, right? I remember that.
Yeah, and just the gameplay. But interesting, you just mentioned the licensing of names. So Pro Evolution didn't have the names for a long time. So you would have, I remember like famous players like Roberto Carlos was called Roberto Larcos. And then Rivaldi, there was that Rivaldi was supposed to be, all the football players, like all the Brazilian football players had these funny names. And then the funniest one was the Dutch team. They didn't get the licensing at all. So they had like Orange Man #1, Orange Man #2 or something like that. So it was one of those kind of quirky things where you knew who they were because you could tell from the face. But everyone who played the game properly was like,
Ronaldo,
oh, that's the game to play.
You're like, oh, this guy's looking a little bit husky, but he's still scoring 5 goals a game.
Oh, you mean the OG Ronaldo?
OG Ronaldo. The Brazilian Ronaldo. So you brought up a great point, the licensing stuff, right? And that's so I think 2 years ago, the license between EA and FIFA comes up. And basically, I didn't get the exact number of how much FIFA was making off of EA for the licensing rights. But you can imagine it was not a little. And it sounds like they're trying to squeeze EA like
Apple and Google levels.
Exactly, right?
Default search engine.
And then I guess EA was just like, we're about to find out. And it's interesting. It's an interesting question. What's bigger, the game or the brand? Because now the game is called FC24. That's the name of the game this year.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
I think the game will be fine. I don't think the name, I mean, people know because it's the same with the way Pro Evolution was so successful, even though it didn't have the names because it was a superior game. And they eventually got the name, so it worked. But with... I don't know, actually. Maybe that's me speaking with bias because I was like so into it. Maybe there's a more, a broader reach where people really need the names and they need everything to be there perfectly. So I don't know, but I have a feeling because it's already been the dominant game for so long. I don't think that's going to change.
And they still the players, right? Like you can still be Haaland or you can be what's his name, Mbappe, dude. Oh my God, I was watching trailers for the FC24 game. I had never seen Haaland's goal from the Champions League, the one where he jumped in the air. Is that the greatest goal ever? One of the greatest goals ever.
It's a good goal, but I don't know. But greatest is there's a few up there. So,
I mean that was an insane goal though.
Yeah, he's an incredible guy. He's a robot.
If you put it in the box, bro, you put it in the box and he gets.
But do you know what? If you don't let him get the touches in the box like Arsenal did 2 weekends ago, he's the not 0 shots, man, 0 XG. That's only happened twice, both against Arsenal, I think.
Well, let me ask you a question before I talk about the FIFA EA's semi-controversial business model, and then I'll talk about that after. Who's actually better, Haaland or Mbappe? Who would you rather have over the next decade?
Oh, that's hard. I would still say Mbappe because he's kind of got more of an all-round game and he's got more to his game. But Haaland is going to guarantee you 30, 40 goals a season. So
he's just a Terminator.
He's a Terminator, exactly, yeah. And it also depends on the team. But I think most people would say Mbappe, I think.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so the EA's business model, which is semi-controversial, is that they make $6 billion. 3/4 of the revenue, give or take, is made from these things. You know Ultimate Team? It's like the mode where you build your dream team. Have you ever played that?
That's the thing. I don't actually ever play it because I know once I'm in, it's a slippery slope.
Can you explain why it's a slippery slope?
I think it's just honestly, because I've never played it, I don't even know all the details. But I think you essentially get these packs, and then you basically get these, which I think is the controversial part, right? Because it's kind of some chance in there of like what you get in the pack. So
it's like gambling.
Some people, it's like gambling, exactly. And the where I see it is, have you ever seen this guy Speed? He's like one of the biggest streamers in the world. No. Man, he's so funny. He's a crazy dude. But he does these like reactions on, and I just see his clips on Twitter, and he's always just so fun. He's the guy that was obsessed with Cristiano Ronaldo and got all the way to meeting him. It was kind of this big arc. He's like, I think he's got 20 million followers. He's like one of the biggest streamers in the world. And but yeah, they will basically you press the button and it will basically show you a player that you get to put in your team, and you create like an ultimate team or something like that. And so you over time, but for me, I've always just played as Arsenal, so it's not. I don't want to have all these random players in my team.
Well, what would be funny is if you got so hooked on the Ultimate Team, you just kept playing until you recreated the Arsenal team, spent like $10,000.
Yeah. But did you ever play like in the NBA games as well, where you could create your own player?
The management mode. It was bro.
Man, that was the funniest thing. Oh my god!
Obsessed with NBA Live, man.
But did you create your own players too in that game?
Oh yeah.
Where it would be like Trung Phan dunking on people.
100, 7'6", 100.
It's all the things you wanted to be in life, right? Like there's a guy, I won't say his name, but from uni, who was a little on the shorter side. He was like just over 5 foot. And he would always, and he was I'm giving it away here for friends who know, but he's a Sri Lankan guy. And he's like darker skinned Indian looking guy, but Sri Lankan. And the guy he created was like 7 foot tall, light skinned, with like ginger hair, like the opposite of.
No, you can just see the projecting, right?
Exactly.
Well, dude, I'm not even gonna hate because like I created like a 6'11" LeBron looking.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Right? So like I listen. That's why these games work. But the whole point is like you nailed it. So that Ultimate Team across all of EA, like all their different games, like that mode is where they make most of their money, and it's gambling, right? Which is, I mean, I'm not even gonna hate on it. It's like it's a bit, dude. All we do is gamble, right? All anyone ever does in digital realms is like some form of gambling and getting a dopamine hit and exchanging money for it, right?
What does Jack call it? The great online casino? Is that him or that someone else?
Everything's
and
a great
online.
online.
Packy McCormick says the great online game, but that's another way of saying, once you add a little bit of chance in there.
Exactly.
But wait, can I just ask really quickly on that, because the gambling part is that you don't really win a prize though, right? You don't.
No, but you're winning
back.
a player for your team, right?
Got it. Okay.
And I don't know across their entire suite of games if you can resell. Like I know they have a game called, I can't remember. They have like a Fortnite type game. I think it's called Apex something. But anyways, I don't know if you can sell those skins. If you do, that would be again like a gambling situation. Yeah.
Crypto fixes this by just letting it be fully gambling, basically.
Check the chain.
All right.
But we're good. Yeah, I think we're good on that topic.
All right, cool. So, but just to summarize, you said the 75% of revenues come from Ultimate Team. They
Some
did
ultimate
$6 billion.
type of thing, not just FIFA, but like across.
Got it. Okay. 6 billion sales and a market cap 35 billion. And now we're gonna see how it goes with the new name change. Anything else on that before we move on to?
No, very related to the next topic.
Perfectly segues into Microsoft. So, $69 billion acquisition of Activision. What was good, because we talked about this on the pod ages ago, and then I guess it's 20 months. So
it's been
what's
under
happened since then?
regulatory review. So you probably see it. There is 3 regulatory bodies, one in Europe, one in England, and one in the FTC in America. They basically want to block the deal, and the thrust of it is that very active regulatory body right now. There's a one against we have to do this every week, but Bilal's former employer currently has an antitrust lawsuit against it from the FTC regarding its search business. That's what we talked about. Actually, you mentioned earlier how Apple gets $20 billion a year from Google to be the default search thing. I mean, that came up, right? It's like this is like you're locking out competitors. That's what they're saying, right? Bilal, we're not going to put Bilal in the hot seat here, people. But the whole point I'm trying to make is the regulatory environment is very, I guess, litigious right now, trying to wrangle in big tech, right? Amazon currently has a lawsuit against it for basically the thrust of it is that Amazon Prime, or one of the thrusts is Amazon Prime is basically a bundle that is uncompetitive. It looks great. You get 2 days free shipping. This is what they're saying, the U.S. government. But that the way they skim money back is they lock out competitors, they lock in consumers with the Prime, and then they just kind of squeeze the vendors, right? They squeeze them, forcing them to pay for ads on Amazon, forcing them to pay for listing fees. The judgment's here. But the thing is, like, Alina Khan, the commissioner, the FTC commissioner, she was very well known. She's very young, early 30s, but she wrote a paper about Amazon and that It's how it abuses power. Um, she wrote it at Yale Law School, which kind of like made her a rising star. But the whole point is that there's all these lawsuits, and this is a big blow because people have been saying, "Are you bringing lawsuits against big tech like for vibes?" You know what I mean? Like just to like, it's a vibey thing. It's like, oh, big tech is bad. Let's bring these lawsuits.
Yeah.
Or are you actually bringing ones that can win? And not to say that big tech shouldn't be wrangled, but if you're just kind of taking shots everywhere, you're diluting the talent of the lawyers at the DOJ and the FTC to bring these lawsuits, right? If you have 5 cases going, you're not going to have the best people in every case. So you're diluting your efforts. And this was a pretty big blow. Like they tried to stop Microsoft from acquiring Activision. And the way they did that was, first of all, Microsoft closed this deal that makes them the 3rd largest game maker in the world after Sony and Tencent. So is that antitrust if Microsoft is only the 3rd largest? Like, what? I mean, what, Bilal, just like top level. If I told you Microsoft is the 3rd largest game maker after this deal, is it ringing in your head that it's a monopoly?
No, but I don't know the what's the exact definition of monopoly nowadays? Because when I learned it 20 years ago, it was like more than 19% or something like that. In the UK, there was.
You nailed it, dude. Yeah. You nailed it. The main question of these antitrust cases is you have to define the market. So the UK said this is the cloud gaming market because that is the play that Xbox is making, right? Microsoft has been around for 20 plus years. I think Microsoft has lost money in the life of Xbox, the hardware system. They have not made money over the course of it. They obviously believe that the future of gaming is like Netflix for film, it's streaming. So if you want to build a streaming product, you have subscribers, right? Same way with the Netflix or Disney Plus model. And what do you have to have in a subscription model? You have to have inventory. You have to have video games. So UK basically said, well, Microsoft is trying to be the monopoly for streaming video games. If they buy Activision, they might take Call of Duty off of Sony, as an example, right? The PlayStation won't have Call of Duty. So the last 20 months was basically getting Microsoft defining its gaming ambitions. But they actually got a lot of concessions. I don't know if you saw it there, but I wrote some of the concessions. If you can read, I don't know if you can read them out, but it's they basically got Microsoft to, instead of, hey, I promise I'll let Sony keep games on their platform, they have to write in contracts that Sony can keep using Call of Duty for X amount of years, right? Or whatever, World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I'm looking at. Have you got it open in front of you?
No, if you want to read it, I don't have it.
Was it? It made an agreement with Nintendo. This one.
Yeah, they also did
Call
Nintendo.
of Duty to Switch. Yeah, and it entered several agreements for the first time to bring Activision content to several cloud gaming services. I don't. This is the part where you said concession, so I'm not sure.
Oh, there's a big one. Yeah, there's a big concession actually. In the UK, Microsoft will allow Ubisoft, a competing game developer, to handle the licensing of Activision's own games. So that's a pretty big concession.
That's a big one, right?
Yeah, that's a big one. So I guess the lawsuit did work in the sense that it forced Microsoft to make concessions. And
I guess without the lawsuit, that obviously wouldn't have happened. So there is
probably would not have happened.
But Trung, a bigger question, I guess, to what you said earlier was, are they doing this for vibes, right? Like, do they actually think they can win any of these? Like, have there been many that have been won? Like, if you look at the big tech kind of suits that have been out there so far?
Epic tried to go after Apple's App Store. Epic and a lot of apps and developers did. They didn't actually win the case, but Apple has, you can tell Apple is actually kind of backpedaling, as in they've installed if you make under $1 million, we only take 15%. Or if you do a subscription service, year 1 is 30% of any money you make. Year 2 is 15%. So Apple's realizing that
what's
they're
the
kind of trying to get ahead of
that? Is it 30% above $1 million?
If you make more than $1 million, it's 30%. Yeah,
30%. Okay.
So so Apple has been on the back foot a bit, and so they are seeing the writing on the wall, and they're trying to get ahead of it. So yeah, I think it's maybe unfair to say they're only doing. I'm not saying they're doing it for vibes. There's legitimate cases. What I mean by vibes is, are you putting enough wood behind each arrow to win these cases, or are you just kind of shooting about and trying to companies on their back foot. You know what? It might even be effective in the sense of like these big tech companies are so powerful.
Yeah.
You are forcing them to make decisions. Like, for example, actually, they made Facebook unwind the deal for VR company, or they blocked it outright. And Facebook had to sell Giphy. So they have had wins. But those wins people are critical of because, like, you're stopping Facebook from acquiring a VR company when the metaverse might not even be a thing. But then Apple is still just the $3 trillion gorilla, which is gatekeeping everyone, right?
Yeah.
So I guess more of the criticism is not the vibes, but are you going after the right people? And are you bringing cases that can win? That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you think that this is probably a wider discussion, but the opposite side to that idea is that these guys have become the most powerful because in technology, you become a monopoly essentially when
power
you've got
laws,
the best,
right? It's like
power laws.
if you're the best search engine for
Exactly.
your former employer, as an example, everyone
you're
will
gonna have
use it.
80% market share or whatever or plus. And so I guess the question is, what is the intention of all of these? I'm assuming the intention is just to look out for consumers and also look out for the fairness of the market, so that they're not just completely dominating and people can still compete with them. They're not gonna extract value. What's the word? There's an economic phrase for this. Where you're basically
surplus value.
Surplus value. Yeah, exactly. You're basically just taking the piss in the market. Yeah. You're going to take 30% instead of 15%. Like, you're not actually creating good level of competition. That's probably the intent, right? Am I missing anything else apart from that?
No, it is. That's 100% is like, well, if you go back to early 20th century, the point of these antitrust laws was around like Standard Oil is what got broken up, right? Is like the structure is like, can one company own the entire energy market in the United States? Is like Standard Oil under John D. Rockefeller owned the refineries, the exploration, the railroads that delivered or had very strong relationships or anti-competitive relationships, if you will, with the railroads that delivered the energy. So yeah, it's like, when somebody is in such a strong position, there is an incentive to abuse it, right? Like, you're trying to squeeze out, it's like you said, you're taking a piss, you're trying to squeeze every last dollar. So let's actually look at this from Microsoft's angle. I don't know necessarily if it's anti-competitive. And Microsoft's been very smart, right? Because they went through antitrust case famously in the late 90s when they were bundling Internet Explorer, just the
Billy Gates
browser
Billy Gates
ever.
Finest.
Yeah, William H. Gates. Man, the deposition videos of Slick Willie during that time, unreal, man. Slick. But before I get into the Microsoft's deal since Satya, well, you're gonna list them off for us. I gotta say, I had a buddy that used to call Bill Clinton Slick Willie. It's just like that.
That's
great.
Incredible. That sounds like a really off-brand rapper from the 90s or something.
Well, I mean, if you listeners want to have a good laugh, just think about how two of the biggest and most important people in the mid-90s were both called Bill, and how they were known to be, kind of dogs. Slick Willie. Think about the word Slick Willie.
That is just, when you said Slick Willie, I was thinking of like Slick Rick meets Pretty Ricky. That's what went in my head. Pretty Ricky from the 2000s. There you go.
Yeah, that's great. So, Bilal, you want to list off some of the things? First of all, tell listeners how I bullet pointed that for you, just so you knew what was up.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So you said Big Dick Satya. So Satya Nadella, for people who don't know, is the CEO of Microsoft. He came in 2014, I think, or he became CEO in 2014. Since then, they've done 326 M&A deals worth of $170 billion in total. That is a lot of spending.
List some of those bad boys off. So
we got GitHub here. GitHub, $7.5 billion in 2018. ZeniMax, $7.5 billion in 2021.
Game publisher.
Yeah, Nuance in $20 billion in 2022. Is it Mojang with a J?
Yeah, Mojang.
Mojang, $2.5 billion in 2014. And then obviously LinkedIn, everyone's favorite platform, $26 billion in 2016. So that is, that's some huge, that's only, what was that, 5
No,
but
think about those deals though, right? So Nuance is in health tech for AI, but it's like, those are across, like that, none of those is like, oh, this is antitrust. Like, they're very smart now, but they have to be, right? And like, But a lot of it is they're playing PR in the sense of like, so they got smacked hard. So Microsoft, you have to remember, in the 2000s, they missed everything. They missed social. They missed the telephone, mobile, smartphone, and a lot of people think it's because they're on their back feet, right? They couldn't be like, if you were to drop a product at Microsoft in the early 2000s, it'd go through like 10 levels of legal review, right? So like the innovation engine slowed down at Microsoft. Listen, they were, let's be honest, like Slick Willie was doing some pretty Slick Willie stuff.
Yeah, and then he stepped
Windows
away.
operating system, right? It's like
you mean like sorry, he was doing some slick stuff, as in that's how they were so powerful. Yeah,
not the more
I was saying
stuff.
slick in a good way. I was like the Mandela style.
Yeah. So Slick Willie, Bill Gates, who I've been calling Slick Willie. And for the listeners that are so confused at this point, which Slick Willie I'm referring to, but so like they've I added some notes there, but I think their top lawyer is Brad Smith, a guy named Brad Smith, knows Washington very well, and basically for the past decade plus, they've rebuilt themselves as this good corporate citizen, and they've completely turned the narrative, and they have flipped the model, right? Windows is irrelevant now. Like the entire business is built around Azure, cloud computing, and obviously the productivity suite. So, yeah, listen, I'm not a lawyer. Like, for the love of God, people, no investment advice, no legal advice. But I very much kind of like, since that lawsuit happened, it's been 20 months. It's kind of crazy, right? And we covered this 20 months ago.
Yeah, that's why.
We'll see. So like, we'll see if it's actually for their gaming ambitions, right? The other thing, the main point I was going to say is like, when you have as much cash as Microsoft, there just aren't that many things you can do to move the needle, right? It's the same issue with Apple, same issue with Google. Yeah. So like all these platforms have all tried streaming video games. Like Amazon's tried it, Google Stadia. Both of them shut it down.
Shut it down, yeah.
Because they saw these as big opportunities because how big gaming is. Because there aren't that many things also they can do, right, to really move the needle. So it sounds like the Activision I think a big part of it was Activision had lost so much value 2 years ago because of this big scandal around the company. A lot of sexual harassment lawsuits were filed. It looked like upper management. We're talking about Slick Willies. It looked like the Activision upper management were a bunch of Slick Willies.
Sorry. Oh, good.
So these guys, the company just actually looked good from a valuation standpoint. And Microsoft just coming in with their cannon of cash because they didn't really have any. I mean, what else?
You can't be saying cannon now straight after that, too. Jesus.
Oh, yeah. No.
Cannon of Slick Willies. Jesus Christ. All right.
At this point, the listeners if you're still listening at this point, you just haven't been, Chung's off his game this week.
Yeah, we respect you. We respect you.
Yeah, you're off. So that's all I have to say about that. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's going through basically. And so, yeah, massive acquisition. I guess the one thing I did want to ask you about was, you kind of brought it up there, like how these big companies, big tech especially, how they can continue to grow and innovate, because at some point you tap out. Like even I experienced that, where you could have, like I worked on a $300 million business that just wasn't.
What company?
Alphabet, formerly known as Google, right? And so I remember they shut that down because it wasn't big enough. Right?
The 300 mil.
Yeah, and that is like, hope that's not private information, but yeah, whatever. It was, I mean, that was a gross amount. It wasn't like Google's take, because it was.
No, I mean, they're famous, right? Google, there's a website, I think it's called Google Graveyard, of all the startups and programs and features that they launched, and they just shut down like a week later.
Yeah. Which, and I will say, to their defense as well, it's like that is their, if you think of Alphabet, I mean, Apple on one side and Google Alphabet on the other, that is the two opposite kind of philosophies of how you create and launch products. Apple is like, we're going to be very specific with what we pick. We're going to have 4 or 5 really good products: iPhone, Mac, iPod back in the day, iPad, watch, whatever, AirPods. And we're just going to go hard, and they're going to be beautiful. Everything's going to work. Whereas the Google approach is always, we're going to have 500 products, and the top 7 will become billion plus people using them. But so that's always been the approach. It's experimental, and it's different. It's like software mostly, not really hardware most of the time. And obviously now they have changed that a little bit. So it's fine. Like that's going to happen with that approach. But there is this thing of, like that company could have easily thrived if it was in a smaller, medium-sized company.
Yeah.
And it was still, it was working. People were using that service. It was completely fine, but it was just never going to become the 10x growth that they needed, which makes sense. So they did the right thing. But that is kind of like what is all the way of saying these companies, for them to really keep growing the way they need to do stuff like this. They need to go and buy an Activision, and like, back in the day for Google, it was YouTube. For Facebook, it was WhatsApp, it was Instagram.
For a little bit less than $69 billion.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But WhatsApp wasn't that far. I mean, because what was WhatsApp?
That's
20
true, 20
or
bill,
12?
and like, yeah, 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, with inflation, that's probably $1 trillion now.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so yeah, it is interesting to see, because on the one hand, like, we want these companies to continue creating products because they, generally are pretty good products for people. A lot of the time they're free, stuff like that. But at the same time, you want smaller companies to be able to compete. And there's like this fine line in the middle, and it's a hard thing to get right. So yeah, good for Microsoft anyway. Anything else on that before we move on to more games being played with Shams versus Adrian? There we go.
No, Shams versus Woj. Bilal's shown his lack of NBA knowledge here. Just like I show my lack of knowledge in what was it? What's the name of your guy? The European guy?
Fabrizio Romano.
Okay, so let's talk about this.
Yeah, let's transition.
So,
there we go.
A big piece came out from the New York Mag Intelligentsia. It did 35-minute read on Shams. That's when you know you made it as a cultural figure. If you get in the New Yorker or NY Mag and you get a 35-minute read, that's when you've broken through culture. That's my benchmark for breaking through culture. So Shams, what's funny is the numbers I'm about to tell you, you're gonna laugh. Shams has 2 million followers on Twitter. Woj has 6 million. Your boy has 30 million. Can you actually pull up how much your guy has?
Yeah, let's pull him up, because he's got a massive amount. Fabrizio's got 25 million on Instagram. Dude, and on Twitter, I think he's massive on Twitter too,
he's
aka
massive.
X. He's got 18.9 million
Bro, do you know how
followers.
Many followers? 18.9. Dude, so everything I'm saying is a joke versus Fabrizio, apparently. But here's a big key. European football, does Fabrizio have a competitor that's even in the ballpark?
I wouldn't say in terms of size, but it's getting there. There's a guy called David Ornstein, aka the Orny. People call him Orny sometimes.
Slick Orny.
You know what I mean? But he's very good. I mean, I like him personally because I think he's less sensational. So like Fabrizio does a good job. He's very connected. I've read a bit about him. He's had an incredible come up. Like, you could probably make a movie about how he became the guy he is in football. But there are some people who criticize him because it feels like sometimes, and this is not me saying this, but people have criticized him, saying he's so chummy with the agents. And he's got kind of a lot of power in a way, because he's
basically a clearinghouse for their information.
Exactly.
Dude, you nailed it.
He can hype them up. He can hype them up. And then that will create competition for a player and then rise the price of that player. So,
but this is what it comes down to, right? We joke about small and big J journalism. But this is actually, this is a larger point about Shams versus Woj and Fabrizio. This is not journalism for purists. They see this as favor trading, as compromised reporting, because everything you just said is exactly the criticism of Woj and Shams. So I'll tell you basically what happened is 10 years ago, ESPN, the biggest company in sports, the leader in sports, is they used to actually do deep reporting, right? Like investigative reports about the NBA. You might get like a 5,000 word piece, year-long investigated report on drug use in the NBA, maybe called steroids. I'm just making it up. I'm giving you a hypothetical, right?
Yeah.
But something that's deeply researched, where you need lots of resources to have legal protection and make sure everything's fact-checked, right? So that was like ESPN 10 years ago. Like, they used to have really, really good in-depth writing. They still do.
Deep investigative style. Yeah.
So, but we're in the social media era now. So much of basketball, I'm the perfect example. I don't watch full games of basketball anymore. I watch highlights on YouTube.
House of Highlights is big as well.
Also highlights. I watch and I'll follow a couple accounts like Kevin O'Connor and Worldwide Wob on Twitter, and I'll just watch basketball on Twitter in the evening through Twitter clips or X clips, right? So, and also when I'm on there, I'm consuming the drama of the NBA, similar to how a football has the transfer windows. Hey, where's Mbappe going? Is Mbappe going to take the $700 million offer from Saudi Arabia? Is he going to go to Man City? XYZ. Same with basketball, right? It's like, oh, where's Damian Lillard going to get traded? Is he going to stay in Portland? He says he doesn't want to stay there. He wants to go to a championship team. Like the off-season stuff, the story of basketball has gotten almost bigger than the game itself, right? And Shams and Woj are the two most important people in that story because they're the guys that are breaking where player X goes to, what team player Y goes to, the negotiations. But everything that you mentioned is exactly happening to them. So I'm going to say a bit from this article, and then I love your thoughts on it. So the compromise they have is this. Why do players leak information to Shams and Woj? Exactly what you said, Bilal. If it's free agency, they'll tell somebody, oh, 4 more teams want this guy. You should force your trading partner to up their offer because I'm going to leak and say, oh, the Chicago Bulls just offered 5 extra draft picks for this guy, right? So if you're a general manager of a basketball team, these guys are ways for you to get leverage in negotiations, right? And for Shams and Woj, what did they get out of it? ESPN pays Adrian Wojciechowski $7 million a year because he draws so much attention to the league. Shams, this is the controversy. He works for The Athletic, which was acquired by the New York Times, the most traditional journalistic organization in America, right? The Gray Lady. Like, a lot of people in New York Times are like, wow, Shams doesn't do real reporting. He's very tight with his sources. And not only that, he has a side deal with FanDuel, the sports gaming casino app, essentially. Are we okay with this? New York Times' whole point is like, oh, we have running a business in sports. We can't pay this guy. So Shams gets paid 600 grand by New York Times.
600.
But he can make that 600 grand. That's nothing because he can make millions. He does make millions from these sports betting apps. So the sports betting apps, so New York Times allowed that to happen. So the newsroom in the New York Times is like losing their mind. They're like, Shams is the highest paid person under the New York Times umbrella. This guy does no real reporting. He is really close to his sources. I mean, I don't know how I feel about it in terms of, I'm not a journalist. We joke about it. I'm a lower J journalist.
Yeah.
So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, yo, Shams, get that cheddar, brother. Yeah. Shams works, bro. This guy works definitely 18 hours a day. On vacation, he works 12 hours because if this is year-round business, the point is
it's always on reporting this sort of stuff.
Exactly. And I think I think a lot of people that are critical about this is like, what is he actually doing? He's sending out a news update 30 seconds before AP does or ESPN does, right?
But
that he scooped that.
That is valuable. Yeah, that right? I mean, that's how newspapers work for a long time. Like you're valuable because you were the first to break it. And then obviously back in the day, you'd have more checks than nowadays. It just changed completely where everything goes sort of thing. It's interesting because I'd say he's closer to and David Ornstein because David Ornstein also now is with The Athletic. And so, again, without knowing a lot about Shams, like Ornstein, the reason I say I kind of prefer him is because, for example, where Fabrizio will make 20 posts about one transfer, David Ornstein might make 2. You know, and so for me, I had like notifications on in the transfer window for Ornstein, but not Fabrizio. Because Fabrizio, you get like 200 a day or something. And then with David Ornstein, it's a bit more curated and it feels a little bit more like, oh, when it's really news, he's going to tell me an update versus like rewriting the same thing like 10 different ways.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Shams' style is, but it's obviously working for him. So good.
He's much more Woj. Yeah. He's much more like the Fabrizio. It's just he gets a scoop and drops it. But so Woj was like the big dog for a decade. And he actually brought in Shams, I believe at Yahoo or ESPN. I can't remember if it's Yahoo or ESPN. But the whole point, I think it was Yahoo. But the whole point is this. This is like a Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader story. And like Woj versus Shams. So Woj, when he tweets, it's called the Woj bomb. It's like Woj will be like,
yeah, like ours is on bomb. Yeah. It's the same thing.
Bomb. It's like, my goodness, right? Like hashtag Woj bomb. A huge scoop. But the last thing I'll say is I do not envy these guys' lives. I
Oh,
would
it's
not want it.
tough, man.
Everything we
Yeah.
just said, it's about the scoop. If somebody beats you by 30 seconds, like you've lost that day. So just to give you an idea, Shams stopped playing pickup basketball because while he was playing pickup once, he missed a massive Boston Celtics scoop. And he's like, I can never do that again. So it's not a good life, man. Like
You
in
gotta
person.
stop selling your time,
Yeah.
brother. You know.
I know, right?
You
I
gotta
know.
read that Naval thread, and
But even Woj, right? Like,
no,
dude,
it's a
like
lot,
you
man.
made so much cheddar, bro. Like, you don't need to be on 24 hours.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, because I think by that point it's less about the money, it's them staying on top. It's like, I'm the guy who does the scoop. And I get it, and it's fair enough. If that's your game, like, you're going to keep playing at the highest level. That's what it takes. But yeah, I agree, man. It's not a life I envy at all, but respect to them for doing it. That is kind of cool, though, that he was under his wing, and then has he kind of taken over or not? Is it like they're both on a similar level?
No, he hasn't taken over yet. Like, Woj is still... So this is the way it's described. Woj is closer with the owners and management. And it sounds like Shams is trying to make his hay with the agents and the players.
Got it.
Like two different angles. It's like the power structure of old
top down
industry.
versus bottom up in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
though they're all very top either way, but you know.
But everybody involved everybody wins when both of them are involved, right? Because they get to play things off of them. You know what I mean?
It's a really interesting topic though, because you can, like, you're right. Because things are moving so fast. There's so many things that can go wrong, and again, just knowing the football side, like, it definitely puts the price up of like for example, there's a guy, Declan Rice, who went to Arsenal this summer for over 100 million basically, and it was this thing where every update was like, it started at 70, then it went up to 80, and then it was like, oh, there's murmurings of Man City interested, but just like, are they really, or is this like a rumor? And then they actually do become interested, and it just keeps building up, and then there's a time constraint of the end of the transfer window as well. I don't know, in NBA, is there like a time that you can trade players and stuff only? You can't do it in the middle of the season.
Off season. No, you can trade during the year, but free agency is what's big. There's like a 2-month window where players get signed.
Yeah. So it's it's a lot of similarities though. It's very interesting.
No, it is. That's why I wanted you to talk about Fabrizio. So let me ask you, is like, I mean, just as a total objective, you know, we're both bystanders at third parties in terms of journalism ethics. It's like, how do you feel about the idea of these guys? They're not journalists. They're like something different completely, and they're using internet first medium of X to get, like, they built a power base. Like, he has 2 million followers, right? That's what gets him this multi-million-dollar contract. And like, it's not because you're a good journalist. Actually, his writing is that I
guess the question is, what is a good journalist in 2023 though? That's another question, because I think you're right. Like, I still respect the deep analysis, investigative journalism, checking sources, all the ethics that you've had for generations. But I guess another way of looking at it, and I don't necessarily agree with this take, but it's like supply and demand, right? Like, there's a demand for this kind of like rumor report style stuff, where it's like, oh, there's murmurings of this happening, and I'm gonna go to this person because he moves quicker than the other person. And I guess maybe like that's what people want, right? Like, if they just want the speed of the story, and they're not necessarily breaking any legal like laws, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they are, but that's...
No, they're not breaking any laws. They're not breaking laws. It's all ethics, right?
It's like, ethics. Yeah.
But like, again, who is determining the ethics? And like, this is the speed of the internet, right? This is like, it goes back. Do you know what? It's the theme of NIA. And Jack Butcher's favorite. Attention wins. Yeah. Shams has 2 million followers because he gets the first scoop, the fastest scoop, or him and Woj do. And they get Woj is I think the highest paid journalist at ESPN, or journalist, right? Like air quotes. He used to be a really good journalist, like a good writer, but now he's like scoop guy. But yeah, interesting. To me, this is edge of the internet in the sense of like it's another feather in the cap of when you wield attention, no matter what industry it's in, because attention is the last scarce resource. You get the power, you get the money.
Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. Put that one on a t-shirt there, bro. That is perfect way to segue into Taylor Swift. Talking of attention, here we go. Do you know what? I might just play our boy Calloway's 1-minute video, because I think I was listening to it this morning, and I'll say everyone should go follow our boy Kane Calloway. I think he's an NIA listener as well and a friend of the pod.
Kane?
Yeah. He listens
Kane?
to the pod and was on Creator Lab where he breaks down how he makes these sort of videos. So I'm just going to quickly share this video. He's got over 1 billion views on TikTok now and Instagram. So really killing it here.
Run it.
All right, so this is from our boy Kane Calloway. You can follow him at Kane Calloway on TikTok, Instagram.
Damn, dude.
Here's a 1 minute summary of what Taylor Swift just done this weekend.
Hollywood is not happy with Taylor Swift because it turns out she may have just broken the film industry. This weekend, Taylor debuted her Eras tour film. It's already done $100 million in ticket sales. For reference, that's the 6th highest of any movie this year, in the same category as Spider-Man and Barbie. But it's not the ticket sales that's making Hollywood mad. It's the split. Because in a savage business move, she completely cut them out. A normal movie looks something like this. There's 4 main parties: the movie producers, the Hollywood studios, AMC, and the local theaters. Now, typically, the movie producer will sell the film rights to a Hollywood studio because the studios control the relationship with AMC and have the money to fund the marketing to get eyes on the trailers. You don't use a studio, your movie's not getting seen. Now, all 4 parties get a cut of the profit, but guess who gets the majority? The studios. They take up to 70% of the income from the opening weekend. But Taylor said,
bro, these graphics are
why
fresh.
do we need a Hollywood studio? I can pay for the filming myself, and I have a massive audience. With one Instagram post, I can get tens of millions of people to know about this movie. So she cut them out. She made a deal directly with AMC. All 3 groups made more money, and Hollywood got nothing. Now, believe it or not, Hollywood isn't that mad about Taylor's movie specifically. I'm sure they would have loved to have made $70 million with 0 effort, but their problem is much bigger than that. What they're really mad about is that she broke into the vault and shared the secret recipe for how to beat them. Now, any group of actors with an audience has a playbook for going direct, and Taylor wins again.
There we go. Killed it.
So what I will say is this, game, great breakdown.
Yeah.
I'll give more context. Is obviously Taylor's Eras tour is going to make $2 billion. Like it'll be the first tour to make $1 billion. Be the first tour to make $2 billion.
Yeah, we did a whole breakdown of the biggest concerts of all time and all the tours.
It's crushing, and then she just has extra. Like it's just another medium to push through content. So the breakdown was great from our boy. But what I would say, the difference I'd say is, you got to beat Taylor. I mean, to do, first of all, she did 100 million.
There aren't many Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Beyonce won't even sniff that. Beyonce is going straight to theaters. Also, she might get 20 mil opening weekend.
I think the interesting thing, sorry, Trung, but regardless of that number 20 or 100, is the fact that she's making 5 to 10x more going direct, which I think
and she's going straight
like,
to AMC.
It's going straight to AMC, whereas it's kind of like the other thing we've talked about is like books, right? Like for a long time, if you put a book out with a big publisher, you might get like 10% of sales, and now you can go direct, sell a lot less, even on a smaller scale, and make 8 times the amount per book. So you can make 90% per book instead of 10. And so again, obviously you're right. Like there's only one Taylor Swift. She's got 300 million followers or whatever it is. But I think there's something interesting there around, going direct.
It's about the
like
audience question, right? It's another example of going direct. I'd say the more interesting thing with Taylor, it just kind of does prove how one of one she is, though. It's like to have 100 million opening weekend.
It's wild.
It's for a movie. For a movie,
6th biggest opening this year versus like Spider-Man and these other big films.
It's insane. I think it just makes her look like, I mean, she's true. She's the beast. She is the gorilla in the room right now. She's the biggest. Like Drake could not do 100 mil at theaters. He doesn't have.
Do you think anyone has come close to what she's doing in like from a, this is a business podcast, so from a business point of view, the way she's played this last year has been
energy
incredible.
Level.
Yeah.
The only thing that are even, I mean, we talked about it, right? Is like U2 over the past decade with their big tours, Elton John, these older acts, but like this concentrated moment, rare. Maybe
with
Michael
pop
Jackson,
culture too, though, right? Like the relevance of her in pop culture, even us
Travis
talking about it.
NFL's tapping her to get more info. NFL, the biggest sporting league in the world, tapping her, biggest in terms of revenue, 20 bill a year. But I'd have to say Thriller with Michael Jackson was a huge cultural moment.
That was incredible.
Because they dropped the the music video on MTV.
Yeah, that was the
MTV
first
writing.
one, right? Like
Real,
the
yeah,
first
that
one,
was
that
a-
level
It
of
made
like
people
storytelling.
realize what you could do with the medium, and then Beatlemania in the '60s. So like we're reaching that level, and obviously we on the previous episode I did mention the parallels with Beatlemania. But yeah, interesting, a great breakdown, and a shout out on the edit on that because I did hear Blank Space, the instrumental in the background.
There we go. Well, yeah, and I will say he puts in a lot of effort. Like that might have taken him 8 hours to do that one video.
Also,
And he
you
does
did
it
that
all
episode
himself.
after Zaid.
It was before Zaid. It was
Okay.
before. It was two,
Both-
3 episodes ago.
Both,
And I will say,
friends of the pod, both
friends
homies.
of pod. And yeah, I would just say genuinely, like the reason I picked those two to break down TikTok was because they've got two kind of different approaches with similar results. Like they're both killing it on TikTok and Instagram, but the way Callaway does it is like high production. Like he shows literally writing a script out, how we take stuff out, his formula, and he's actually got a really good newsletter as well, where he's breaking down everything from the back end, how much he's making, how he's doing brand deals. Like for anyone who's interested in making short form video, he's like 100% follow. There's no question about that. And he's been in our world for a while. I think he was in Visualized Value community and stuff as well. So
Money.
he's definitely a friend of the pod. All right, anything else on that before we get to the main event, the bread off, crowning the world's greatest bread?
Just if you can just give listeners
Things I didn't think I'd ever say on the pod, by the way.
Dude, I mean, bro, what do you, wait, I'm gonna call you out on that one, Ashley. I disagree.
Yeah.
One of the
It's
first
very
episodes we
NIA.
did,
It's very-
one of the first episodes we did was me roasting British food. And I think I came out of that roasting of British cuisine by saying the national dish is chicken tikka masala.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
On which I think we all agreed on. So can you actually give a preamble of what Taste Atlas is? They made a list of 50 breads, the top breads in the world. If you want to read out actually the number one bread and the description they gave.
Yeah, let's have a look here. So I think number one they ranked is roti canai, which is that Malaysian, right?
Oh yeah. If
No,
you can
I
give
will. I do want to give a shout out because there's butter naan is number 3.
Okay.
Here,
There's
and
another
we've got
naan up
naan number 8.
Okay.
Which is funny because there are two types of naan. There's also, I want to give a shout out to my personal favorite paratha number 29 on the list. So there's a
Well,
lot
dude,
of brown food there. And
Well,
I'll
can you
also
throw
say,
some European? Throw some love for the Europeans.
oh yeah,
What's
yeah.
the first
Okay, what else have
European
we
one?
got here? Focaccia number 6, baguette number 7.
Okay.
What else is there? Oh, number 4, naan-e-barbari, which is Iranian, I believe.
Yep.
As well. So there's another type of focaccia, number 13, scallion pancake, 15. I think that's
Asia.
pretty low. That should be higher up, I think.
But let me hit you with a quick thing though. So like, obviously, anything on these lists, they're designed to piss people off.
Yeah.
It's designed for
Of course,
engagement,
yeah.
right? So I posted this on Twitter or X, and immediately, somebody's like, so many comments, right? Well, I think one actually was funny. He's like, no German bread in the top 10. Like, this is
That's
criminal.
hilarious.
Yeah.
No German
So-
bread.
So actually, if you can actually, so the what this is actually based on,
Yeah.
15,000 people voted. And then Taste Atlas said something like, I read their methodology. There's no methodology here.
Yeah.
They're like, we try to take patriotism out of it. And like, we tried to make sure that there was no bodying of the voting. What does that even mean, dude? It sounds like you just like surveyed 10,000 people and like
Yeah.
kind of like slapped the list together.
I think
Having
that
said
any of
that-
these food lists are always stupid because it's like, I remember once we talked about it on the pod as well. It's like the best cuisine or something. And it was so, there was literally like Indian food was like in the top 5 and Pakistani food was 40 and they're very similar. Like Pakistani food and Indian food have a
Japan
massive
and Italy.
overlap.
I think we can all agree. Japan and Italy are 1A, 1B.
It's hard to beat.
I
It's
know
hard to beat.
the French will throw because obviously Michelin is from
I
France.
love French food. I
don't-
think it's overrated. That's
I
my
think it's
hot take.
overrated.
Yeah.
Butter's in, what is it? Solution, everything's more butter, right?
It's
Like,
great. I love French food as well, but it's just like one of those things. I think it's like this thing where people got this European centric, like high end fine dining thing, and it's just this mentality where it's like,
yeah.
I think it's a little bit biased as well. But
Let me read
that's a
through the,
controversial topic.
Here's the everything I said about Taste Atlas. I will give them this. Here's my read through of the roti canai. The mastery of roti canai lies in its preparation, as the dough is skillfully pan-fried to create a heavenly juxtaposition of a crispy golden brown exterior and a tender melt-in-your-mouth interior. The piece de resistance, however, lies in the perfect pairing of this delightful flatbread with aromatic curry or dal, resulting in an explosion of flavors that dance harmoniously on the taste buds. What I will say about roti canai is this: nothing compares to the crispy outside and the feathery interior.
Yeah.
Some baguettes are close to that, but it's just not the same. The roti canai,
pairing it with the dal and the curry,
dude, the dip, bro, the dip.
That's where you go. I mean, what I will say, the reason I called out the other Indian / Pakistan has the same bread as well. Roti canai. I don't know the history here. I have been to Malaysia. Incredible. I love the food there.
I've been to Malaysia. We can talk about how good Malaysian food is. But
yeah, I think it's also kind of underrated in a lot of ways because people think of other Asian food. When you say a side of dal, a side of curry, I mean, I will say that sounds a bit brown to me too. Like, man, because obviously there's Indian people that have moved.
Oh, you're saying is this Malaysian roti canai or is it a roti?
It is. I mean, it is Malaysian. The same way chicken tikka masala is English. You know what I mean? Like, it comes from that part of the world, and there were people, I don't know when they moved.
You're trying to claim it for the subcontinent. Yeah, you're trying to claim it for the subcontinent.
It's like when you go to a Trinidad spot and you get roti there, that is also from, it's a Trinidad food, right? But
Commonwealth.
it comes from the Indian background, right? Like they made that sort of food. So I will say Indian style bread dipped with some sort of curry, that is hard to beat, man. You know what I mean? It's very, very difficult to beat.
Goodness, dude. That is, yeah. So let me leave on this. We're supposed to do the meme of the week.
I was going to show the video, but
yeah, let's show the
20 second version.
Can you do just the part where he eats? So there's this dude on TikTok. I just want to show the part where he eats the butter chicken.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Bro, so this dude tries food for the first time international. He went to an Indian restaurant, gets garlic naan.
For the first time. It's so
onion
beautiful.
pakora and the butter chicken. But here's the hilarious part. He eats the butter chicken like it's a soup. But not only that, he uses a fork.
A fork.
The dude's eating soup. First of all,
so earnest. I love his.
All right,
let's show it because again, most people are only listening to this, but you can click through on YouTube and check this out, or search on. I mean, there's we can link to the tweet.
Come to YouTube, brother.
Come to YouTube and drop a comment too for us. Let me just share my screen. This is the 20-second version here. So this is him trying butter chicken for the first time. Yeah. Here we go.
So this dude. Okay, dude. Here we go.
What's his name again? Luke Foods.
Yeah, Luke Foods.
Okay.
Hit it.
Or nothing. So thankfully I had a fork in my car. But yeah.
Bro, look at his eyes. Look at his eye. Oh.
Holy crap! This might be the best thing I've ever tasted in my life.
What he says?
Let me chill out. This chicken is. It's like liquid. It just melts in your mouth. Okay?
So good.
The butter taste,
pause this for a second. Let me opine on this.
Oh my god.
So, Luke,
the holy crap is so good.
Luke, if you listen to this on the infinitesimal chance you listen to this, hit us up. We want you on the pod. But let me say this.
Yeah.
Let me say this. 10 seconds before he said that the butter chicken might be the greatest thing he ever tasted, he tried a garlic naan. And he has a bite of the garlic naan and he goes, oh my God, this is the best bread I've ever had. Yes, brother.
It's hard to beat.
Garlic naan and butter chicken is the greatest combination in the history of mankind.
I might say I agree with that, even though it's the Anglo version of Indian food, which I am obviously proud of being from the Great British Isles. But I will say one thing, this is more for the real foodies. If you ever get a chance to get paratha number, what was it, 28 or 38 or something on the list? Have you ever had paratha before?
I'm gonna have to Google it. How do you spell it?
Paratha is kind of like P-A-R-A-T-H-A is how I would
describe
spell
it. I'm gonna look it up to tell you if I've ever had it.
It's kind of like roti or naan, right? But you normally have like layers to it. So you could have a plain one or you could have two together, normally kind of fried in butter. So it's not the healthiest for you. But my favorite is you would stuff it. So you have like potato in there, so that's called aloo paratha.
Or beef, or ground beef.
Exactly, you've had this.
I've had it.
That's a keema paratha. And then you get a moli paratha, which is radishes, and then you even get a sweet one if you're feeling funky with it. Oh my god, bro, it is hard To be
Yo.
that is a Pakistani breakfast.
Have you already had lunch? Because I haven't, and my appetite is actually going through
I
the
might have to
roof
go.
right
Oh,
now,
there's
dude.
one place south deep in Brooklyn where you have to call them up and they don't speak English, and I have to speak to the auntie in my broken
That's how
Urdu.
you know the food's good, though.
They send that over to my house, and it's like $12. You just get this amount of food. It's incredible.
Did your
anyway.
old man ever do this? Like
Yeah.
my old man used to take us to Vietnamese restaurants, and we saw a white person in there. He's like, "We're not going inside."
Yeah, he's like, this. Don't trust it. We don't trust it. No, but this is one of those where you might get stomachache because the cleanliness. I don't know. I think they're keeping the food out for a
They're
while.
probably using old oil. Here,
Yeah.
let me just listen. My dad was like semi-joking, but like you have to remember in the 80s and 90s, like it's not like now. If you go to a place where like I'm not talking just white people or Caucasian. If you go to a place where you see different ethnicities that aren't of the originality of the food, that's probably a good sign now. We're in 2023, people. Food brings people together, man.
100%.
Everybody
we need
can
more of that
appreciate good food.
in today's
This is
world.
what, like Luke Foods. Here's the thing about Luke's Foods. I saw some comments like, man, like this would solve so many controversies. Like between people. It's like, man,
just
eat
break
somebody
bread.
else's food. Literally break bread.
That's
right?
where I think it comes from. Yeah.
So, anyways,
Beautiful.
man, that's just like, yeah.
I will say they've got number 34 New York City bagels. That's low down the list.
Low.
I will put that.
That
feels a little low. When you get a really good one,
dude, I like a good
I'm
bagel,
converted
bro.
to those. A
little
bagel,
cream
yeah.
cheese. Wait, here? Let me last question. Bagel related to bagel.
Scallion.
Do you like cream cheese with smoked salmon, or do you like smoked salmon flavored cream cheese?
No. I like the. This is my order. I get everything bagel toasted with scallion cream cheese, and then the lox, as they call it here, which is smoked salmon on
the
top.
lox, dude.
Actual, none of this like flavored. I just want the real deal.
Yeah. No, just give me. I want
is good.
the most cured smoked salmon, the freshest smoked salmon you have.
Shout out Bagel Pub in Brooklyn. That is a real. I mean, there's actually one where Jack used to live in Crown Heights in Brooklyn on the corner. It was his favorite spot as well. Man, that is really. That is an experience. I love it. All right, man. That was perfect. Good to finish off there. Let us know your favorite bread in the comments below as well, or in the Telegram chat. And appreciate all the support. I actually was going to give a shout out. I met an NAI listener live in the flesh this weekend. Someone met in the bar and happened to listen to the pod. It was pretty fun to chat and hear about how it would been part of their routine since 2020. Very, very cool. So yeah, if you ever see us in public, you gotta say hello.
I hope it wasn't part of their investing routine.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it depends who they were listening. If they were listening to me and you, then definitely not. But
man,
they're listening to Jack. They might have a different life.
To Jack, they wouldn't. They'd be letting
right.
you know, right?
Exactly. But anyway, yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks again for the support, and we will see you guys next week. Cheers.
Peace out.